Good afternoon from fabulous Las Vegas on Las Vegas Boulevard. This is the sort of premiere show on WCOBM for the Sports Circus. The Sports Circus is also found on Fox Sports Radio Saturday mornings from 6 to 7 a.m., 1340 here in Las Vegas. So this is more of a scaled back version of the show. This is more of a newsy type of thing. It's going to get pretty exciting in the coming weeks. The guests that we have are really exciting. On the radio tomorrow, we have four-time Super Bowl champion Tom Flores. We've had three-time shot blocking champion Theo Ratliff the week before, two-time Super Bowl winner the week before Leonard Marshall, and it goes on and on and on. So we're going to bring some pretty exciting things. The Saturday morning show is really the Saturday morning cartoon of Sports Talk Radio. So it's the tagline on the website is the big top of Sports Talk Radio. So it really focused on the lighter side. But this Friday afternoon show is going to be a little bit more, like for today, it's going to be more news-driven, more event-driven, and we're going to get into some things, maybe a couple of goofy things, because we certainly talk about goofy things on that show. Nevertheless, I want to acknowledge the loss of Craig Sager. Craig Sager, for those people in the sporting world that know who this gentleman is, he was really a mainstay for the last 30 years on TNT and TBS as a sideline reporter for the NBA. And everybody's favorite guy with the craziest suits. He was wearing the craziest colors, the loudest colors. And everybody noticed him. Everybody knew who he was exactly for his personality that just glowed and his unbelievable outfits. So Craig lost a battle to cancer. Actually, he had a battle with leukemia, and yesterday he left us. And you know, Craig was a very, very fun guy to listen to. His interviews were a little different, a little off the wall. Sometimes he pushed the buttons of people to kind of rile them up a little bit, but I did like him, and he was a very likable guy. I did not know him in person. I only knew what I saw on camera, just like you guys are seeing right now. But Craig was a great guy, and he's actually from an area that I'm very familiar with. He's from suburban Chicago, an area where I was born and raised as well. So take my hat off to Mr. Sager, and Godspeed, my friend. So moving on. I'm gonna talk about the Rams and the firing of Jeff Fisher. And Jeff Fisher, for those that don't know about his history, you know, he's been in the NFL for a long time. He's lost a lot of games. He actually is tied for the most amount of losses under the helm of any NFL team, whether it's one team or all teams. Jeff Fisher sort of leads the way on that. But he's really a transitional coach. So you have to ask yourself, was Jeff Fisher just a scapegoat for the Rams? Because, you know, the Rams are building a new stadium. They moved back from St. Louis. They were from the St. Louis Sheep. Now they're the South Central Sheep in Los Angeles. So until they have their new stadium in 2 more years, you're not going to see anything significant come out of the Rams organization, whether it's coaching. I don't suspect a big name is going to come in there and replace this guy, but Jeff Fisher was a transitional coach from when the Houston Oilers made their move. Jeff Fisher moved with them to Tennessee. And now once again, he had his hands full with the Houston Oilers, and he basically did the same thing as being with the Rams for a long time, and he was the transitional coach of bringing them back to Los Angeles. And so, of course, somebody else is going to get all the glory in a couple of years with the new stadium that the Rams are building. And actually, that stadium is going to be co-occupied by the Chargers. The San Diego Chargers are moving back to Los Angeles. They originally started in the AFL as the Los Angeles Superchargers. Now they're coming back. I think it's going to be in 2 years because there's no new deal in San Diego that was talked about on a previous show here. But you're going to see the Chargers move back. They're going to be co-tenants with the Rams. And even this year, these teams are so bad that if you combine their wins, they're still not even in the playoff hunt. They're that bad. It's pretty embarrassing, to be honest with you. So who is a good replacement for Jeff Fisher to take this really bad Rams team? And yes, they've had injuries like everybody else, but a few different names come to mind. Everybody's throwing around John Gruden. I don't think John Gruden, even if the money's there, is going to take it. He left on a really high note. He's in the booth. He does Monday Night Football. He does all the things that he ought to be doing. Yes, he has fire in the belly for the game, and he's an offensive guy, which the Rams certainly need. But I happen to believe that this guy is going to stay exactly where he's at in the booth And probably in 2 years, first you're going to see an interim coach come in. You may see a John Fox come in. He's probably going to get fired from the Bears, and he's going to probably maybe go in to coach the Rams. But I think what you're going to see, once that new stadium shows up, some people on the inside have told me that watch for Nick Saban to leave Alabama and come over to Los Angeles for the big stage, the new stadium, the new everything, and the big contract. Because, the Rams are going to spend a lot of money on filling that team, building that offensive line, just like the Dallas Cowboys have. The Cowboys can put any quarterback in their backfield, and they're going to win games. Now, Prescott's a good quarterback with Dallas, but let's face it, you could put a German Shepherd back there, and he's going to perform really well as well because of all the protection he's got. So I wouldn't really think that the Rams would not spend the money. They're certainly going to spend the money on the offensive line because the model to follow is what the Dallas Cowboys have done. And this isn't the first time the Cowboys have done it. If you think back to the early 1990s when the Cowboys were just terrible after their Super Bowl runs, etc., then they had to rebuild. They went over. They were 0-16. And then they started drafting the linemen, building a big line. And guess what? They got a guy by the name of Troy Aikman. And they put Troy behind this big line. And Troy took his lumps early in his career. Lots of concussions, really bad scene for him. But that team was built around a giant offensive line, and that is the model in the NFL. Now, some teams buy into it. Others, they'll say, well, let's go get the fast receivers. We're going to get the ball in 0.3 seconds, less than 1 second. We're going to get the ball to them and let them gain the yards downfield. But the problem is sometimes they don't get open that quickly because you have great defensive backs and safeties. So now you have to have a quarterback that can get rid of the ball quickly, but you also have to have somebody that could stay back in the pocket and take the heat. And sometimes that's part of the problem there. So I would look for the Rams to bring in maybe a John Fox, somebody to take the team in a transitional state and just basically carry it until the new stadium's done in a couple of years. That's probably what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. Although this is Vegas and you could bet on it, I'm not a betting man on it, except for the fact I would put Saban at the very top of that list. I would forget Pete Carroll coming back down to Los Angeles. He's very happy in Seattle, and they're winning games, and guess what? They're hoisting the trophy. They're winning the Super Bowl up there, and they very well could do it again today. Or not today, but this year. So anyway, I want to shift gears here for a second. I want to talk about something that's been in the news quite a bit. And we have Floyd Mayweather. And we have Conor McGregor. So let me see if I can spit that out again. Conor McGregor. So here's two guys from two different ends of the fighting world. They both fight in a ring, so to say. But you have two very different talent pools. And I brought in our resident fight expert who is off camera, and he's going to have some dialogue with me because I got to tell you, there has been some talk about McGregor wanting to fight with Mayweather. I think it's a great idea, but Scott, what do you think about that?
I mean, it would definitely generate a lot of money. A lot of people would want to see it, but it would all depend upon the rules of the fight. Like McGregor says, the safety net rules of boxing or, a full-on MMA fight.
It's going to be boxing.
Yeah.
And
Mayweather would never agree to an MMA fight.
Oh, heck no. No, in fact, McGregor, I think he just got a boxing license in California.
He did, yeah.
Right?
I think that was just to shove it to him, like, hey, I'm ready if you are.
Right.
That's the thing. If Mayweather comes up with the money that he has to get this fight going, McGregor would do it. And he would box him, but it's tough for McGregor. I'm a huge McGregor fan, but McGregor's really good at kicking, and that's something he can't do in boxing. And Mayweather's very evasive, so he can kind of pop and shot, back up, do what he does. He'll win on points, if anything, but not impressively. Whereas if they were in an MMA match, McGregor would just annihilate him.
It would tear him apart.
Just destroy him.
If McGregor was able to just connect a few times, I think he would really shake Mayweather.
Yeah, because he's got power.
He's got a lot of power. And he's used to fighting bare knuckle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so, I mean,
no glove.
Right. I mean, that's when you can hit bare knuckle. I mean, you feel it.
Yeah.
Right? That's when bones start to break.
Yeah.
Right?
It would be entertaining, though.
I would love to see that.
I would love to see that.
With the right money, there's $100 million being thrown around right now. I think Mayweather would do it for $100 million. And I don't think McGregor would do it just for free, just to do it.
Yeah, well, McGregor likes money.
He likes money. We all like money, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that one unravels. I would sure love to see it. What about you guys?